G'day everyone, back to nosp3 today with map 24, Scorching Singularity. This is the second exit I've got on this map. The first one was a little over 16 minutes. I'd always planned on coming back to this map at some stage since I really wasn't very happy with my first exit. At the time there wasn't any demos for it on DSDA, so the first exit was played just super safe during the cleanup and the finale. And the end result I think was just a pretty crappy demo to watch. It was also pretty early on in my demo recording career and I was a lot more prone to nerves back then, and that really played into how safe I wanted to play during the finale because the start of this map is quite tricky to get through. Brendondle recorded a demo yesterday that was a little over 12 minutes, so I figured this was as good a time as any for me to come back and tackle it again. My first exit took nearly 150 attempts, whereas this one was only around 25. Second exits are always easier than the first, but I think this is largely just down to how much more confident I've gotten since then when I'm recording demos. Anyway, let's get into it. Alright, pick up the plasma first and then the rocket launcher, so the auto switch leaves us on the rocket launcher. I fire 6 rockets there while staying as close to the left as I can to try and draw as many imps away from the wall as possible. That'll let you wall run and get as far up the wall as possible early so you don't have to be plasmering through a big group of imps. Grab the BFG and push back towards the start and hit these next 2 switches. Doesn't really matter how much damage you do to stuff here, everything here is going to infight pretty easily. You won't have to clean too much of it up, but you may as well keep firing the BFG. Push through, hit this next switch, grab the Mega, and now try and push through these revs. These revs can ruin your day quite easily. It's thankfully early enough in the map that it doesn't matter too much. And then BFG through the zombie man. Now I push up here and I like to grab a chain gun immediately so that I can switch back to the BFG and I don't have to worry about auto switching when I push past. And now we try and clear out as many of these vials as possible. This is probably the biggest point of reset, is just clearing these vials out. You can easily get just mega zapped by 5 or 6 of them at once and get thrown back and then lose BFG tracer efficiency, but yeah, we got through pretty comfortably here. Now, if I'm over about 200% health, I won't grab a mega straight away. I'll push through and hit the switch and just start working on the imps first. I fire somewhere between 10 and 12 rockets until I hear there's a couple of cybs that wake up. That lets me know that the cubbies are open and I can push out and hit the first switch. We want to hit the first switch as quickly as possible, just so that we can get the second switch lowering sooner rather than later. Grab a mega as I push back in, and then I pretty much just sit here until I've used up my entire cell stack. You kind of need to use up a full cell stack, push out, refill on cells, and then do the same thing again before the second switch will lower down. That kind of timing works out pretty well, depending on exactly how early you have to push out. If you get unlucky and a cyber rocket manages to snake its way through the revs, then maybe you need to push out earlier and refill on health, but thankfully I don't need to worry about that here. So push back in and keep BFGing the cybers down, the revenants down rather. You want to keep moving back and forth, left to right, just to reduce the chance that a stray cyber rocket will hit you, but you need to be watching the fire animations on the cybers that can see you, just so that you know roughly when rockets are going to be coming in, and you can somewhat predict sometimes whether or not a rocket's likely to get through the crowd. I like to sit in here and just work down the close cybers as much as possible before pushing through into this room. Grab the red key, which will spawn a whole bunch of additional cybers down the end of this hall, and then just start BFGing everything down. I did experiment pushing out from this hall as soon as I grabbed the red key. It can work, but it's very unreliable. You're going to have quite a lot of cybers down the end, and they can just block your path and completely ruin your day. And getting past that previous fight is probably the second hardest part of this map. So once I'm at this point, I just want to get an attempt in at the finale. Clear up as many of these guys as we can, as many of the close cybers, and then shortly after this I'll go back up to the other end of the hall, refill on health and armor, and then I'll try and push out and start clearing everything up by circle strafing. You can just sit in this corridor and clear everything up, but it's quicker if you can get out and start circle strafing the remaining cybers and barons and stuff that are left out here. like to try and clear the manx from the wall as early as possible, mainly just because then I don't have to worry about, you know, watching my back, and also it stops a lot of the cybers from getting distracted and you know, wandering off, which doesn't really impact the infighting too much. At this point you're basically doing all the damage yourself, but it does just help with how efficient your BFG damage is. If all the cybers are in one spot and you can circle around them, you're going to be killing them quicker than if, you know, they've wandered off into no man's land. Alright, so once all these guys are killed, push back over and clear up the remaining cybers. I got a little bit unlucky. Well, I don't know if it's unlucky. I probably should have stayed over the other side and cleared up. There's 2 cacos over there that end up that I end up having to go back and clean up. If I was smarter, I would have cleaned them up first, and then I could have taken the teleporter out of this fight and, you know, gotten to the next fight a little bit quicker. But it's, yeah, probably, you know, 10 seconds or so at most time loss. It's not that big of a deal. Yeah, so just refill on ammo before we head into the next fight. Don't need to worry about it. Health, we'll get a mega as soon as we get into this area. Now it's very important to keep an eye on what time you start this fight. As you can see, there is a ridiculous number of archviles up on the walls around this fight. A minute after you start the fight, those archviles will all be instantly killed. nosp3 is an MBF 21 ward, and that means there are some interesting line specials that you can use. One of them allows you to instantly kill enemies, and that gets triggered basically a minute after this fight starts. So I started this fight around about, I think it was 5 minutes 16 or so. So I'm constantly conscious of the time here. I basically need to get a megasphere from the middle just before that 5:16 mark. Because as soon as that mark hits and the vials die, I want to go out to the edge and hit. There's 3 switches out there that I need to hit, and that'll start up the last phase of the fight. So I'm diving in there around about 6:14 or so. The vials are now dead. I can start pushing out to the edge. Now, there's a couple of different ways that you can handle this next phase of the fight. Basically, when you hit these 3 switches out around the edge, I think about 50 cybers will spawn around the edges. The middle central pillar will open up, reveal a whole bunch of archviles, and a whole bunch of crap will start spawning in the middle. You can focus on the cybers first. You can do nothing and just let infighting do its job. You can focus on the revs. You can try and work down some of the stuff in the middle. I've found through testing that I think the quickest strat is to just focus on the revs. There's over 1,000 revs up on the walls, and the cybers aren't that great at infighting and killing them. They tend to take their time to do it. A lot of them will just walk up to the wall and be shooting rockets into the wall rather than actually at the revs. And it also means that if the cybers are focusing on the revs, they're not infighting stuff that's in the middle of the map. And in my experience, if you either focus on the cybers or if you don't do anything, then the revs will all pretty comfortably do a lot of damage to the cybers, and the cybers then won't do a good job at cleaning up the rest of the stuff in the middle. And the stuff that tends to spawn last in the middle is a whole lot of pain elementals. And so if you don't do something to ensure that the cybers have a chance to infight the stuff in the middle, then you'll end up being left with just a massive group of pain elementals and lost souls, and they can be really awkward to clean up in the middle because, as I said, there's a massive group of archviles there. You can't get too close. It's nosp3, so archviles will resurrect each other. You basically need to make sure that everything else is cleared out before you actually begin to work on those archviles. You need to make sure that you kill those archviles kind of all at once. So that was kind of the motivation for me focusing on the revs. As you can see at this point now, basically all the revs are dead, and pretty much all the cybs are in the middle. If I hadn't focused on the revs, then the cybs would kind of just be all over the place, and you know, they wouldn't have done that efficient infighting damage to what's left in the middle, which is what I really wanted. So now that pretty much all the revs are dead, I'm going to start working down the cybers. The timing kind of works out that once you're at this point, almost everything in the middle is dead. It's basically just lost souls and maybe a couple of pain elementals, but it's low enough density of enemies there that I can comfortably start working down the cybers and not have to worry that that I'm going to be left with a big throng of lost souls to clear myself. So now it's just kind of you can kind of do this however you want. It might be a little bit more efficient to hide behind one of the pillars here, bait all the cybers out of the very center, and circle strafe them. But I don't want to get too close to the center of the map. If you get too close to those archviles, even one or two of them targeting you can fling you way off into the distance and really ruin your day. The other thing I didn't mention is on the left and right hand sides of the map, near where the grey pillars are, when you hit the 3 switches, a portion of the the very kind of edge of the left and right turns into lava, and that's another MBF 21 line special, and it instantly kills you. So you can't really afford to get zapped by an archvile when you're close to the edges, because they could easily just zap you into the lava and then you instantly die. It doesn't matter how much health you got. So yeah, you kind of need to play in this kind of middle section. You want to be close enough that you're getting efficient damage with BFG, but you don't want to be so close that you're hitting these archviles with traces. As you can see, it's pretty easy to get zapped there. I got pretty lucky that not too many of those vials were targeting me, and I was able to find some cover. Now, I just used the super rocket launcher for the vials. The BFG is not really the best weapon to try and kill this many vials. If you stay too close, then too many of the vials will target you too quickly, and you'll have to hide too much, and you just won't get efficient damage. They'll just constantly resurrect each other. So I just like to sit back, spam rockets, and then when most of them have died, I'll push in and finish the job. And we're pretty much done. I'm pretty happy with this demo. I think the time gain can go lower with this route, maybe even as low as 1045 or so. There is an alternate strat I tested for the finale that involves hitting all 3 switches before the vials get killed. That barely works, and it only saves around 30 seconds or so I'm not sure it's worth bothering outside of a TAS. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.